right? So I think my screen is visible to all now.
Yes, fine.
Yeah. Okay. So what has happened is that so far the problems that we have solved, they were the maximization types and all the constraints were less than or equal to types. So as a result, what happened was that we used to add our slack variables, and because slack variables are going to be added to a constraint, so they were always with a plus sign, and the coefficient with these slack variables were always 1, right? So your slack variable could be anything, right? So I'm writing xj only here, right? So as a result, what happened was that when we started with the initial simplex table, we could easily get our identity matrix corresponding to the slack variables. And so every time in the initial table, the slack variables always constituted our initial basic feasible solution. So it was easy to start with. Okay. But supposing you have, but then every time I cannot be having a less than or equal to type constraint, and every time more than or equal to type constraint cannot be converted to a less than or equal to type constraint, because then the right hand side will also get changed. And to be in the standard form, we want our right hand sides to be positive always. Okay. So that means we can have more than or equal to type constraints, and we can have even equal to type constraints. So in these cases, there is a problem. Okay. So like what will happen in more than or equal to type constraints, as we have discussed, we need to subtract the surplus variables. Okay. So when you need to subtract the surplus variables, that means I'll have a minus sign, though the coefficient can be 1, right? So I can have another variable here, but then the coefficient is going to be -1, right? So when we make the initial table, as we have done in the earlier cases with slack variables, what will happen is that we are going to get the entries as -1 0 0 0 -1 0 0 0 -1. Now they do not constitute the identity matrix. Okay, so that means the surplus variables cannot be treated as the initial basic feasible solutions. Okay, so I mean that means the behavior, of course, slack variables designated or denoted the slackness in the constraints or the resources, right? Surplus variables are denoting the surplus in those particular resources. So since their economic interpretations is also different, so that is why their behavior is also different, right? So one thing is very clear, that surplus variables cannot be our initial basic feasible solutions. So the question now is what to do in such situations when we have more than or equal to and equal to type constraints. So what the researchers did was they introduced another class of variables apart from slack and surplus, and they called it as artificial variables. Okay. Now, artificial variables we usually denote by AJs. Okay, because why not X? Because they are neither slack nor surplus. That means they do not have either any physical significance nor any economic significance. So they are just there. Okay. So that is why we are calling them as artificial, right? They are variables, but then they're artificial. Because had they been decision variables, the way we defined in the beginning, decision variables make sense because decision variables have a physical significance. They exist because the decision maker wants them to exist. Decision maker wants them to use. Okay. Slack and surplus variables exist not physically but economically. Why? Because they are actually denoting some significance regarding the resources that are available to the decision maker. So even like when we'll do duality later on, you will realize that these slack and surplus variables, they play a very important role, because in the final optimal simplex table, the Zj minus Cjs of slack and surplus variables are important. We will be interpreting them also. Okay, so that is why they need not be having a physical significance, but they definitely do have an economic significance. Okay, but artificial variables, they have no significance at all, neither physical nor economic, but still we need them. Like physics people, it's like friction. We need it to to solve the problem, actually. In fact, to begin with the initial basic physical solution. See, why what happens is that we have seen that things become much more simpler if we start the initial basic physical solution as those variables which constitute the identity matrix right in the beginning. And then, since it's an iterative procedure, so definitely we are moving from one optimal solution to another till we reach optimality. Okay, so that is why we bring in these artificial variables, right? Now, the care that has to be taken with artificial variables is that, number one, since they do not have any significance, so that means when we write them in the objective function, we don't even write the coefficient as 0, right? We write it as even terms smaller than 0. Okay, how we do that? Secondly, the algorithm is changed in such a manner then that once an artificial variable leaves the basis, it can never re-enter the basis. Okay, so that means if it's gone forever. So that means we can do away with that in our subsequent tables or in our subsequent iterations. So that is the beauty of these artificial variables, the way they are introduced and the way we solve it. Okay. In fact, after Denzing gave the simplex algorithm, Charney's made a modification in it, and that's why the method that we use to solve the problems using artificial variables is also at times called as the Charney's Big M method. Okay, how we do it, I'll just explain. Let's begin with an example. So maybe then things would be more clear to you and we can proceed on simultaneously. Okay. So so be ready with your paper and pen, and then we are solving it. Like supposing I have this problem where I have to maximize z equal to, I'm taking a smaller problem, 5x1 plus x2 subject to 5x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal to 20, x1 more than or equal to 3, x2 less than or equal to 5. Okay, and of course x1, x2, x3 more than or equal to 0. Okay, now you can see this problem. It's a maximization type, right? Two of the constraints are less than or equal to type, so no problem. We can always add slack variables here, right? But then one of the constraint is more than or equal to type. Okay, so that means we cannot add a slack variable here. We'll have to introduce surplus, but then surplus would get subtracted, and because I need a pivot element from second constraint also, so that means I will have to add an artificial variable here. Okay, so one thing to remember, slack variables come alone, they work alone, right? Surplus variables, they do come, but along with them come the artificial variable also. Okay, so the moment we subtract a surplus variable here, we have to add an artificial variable along with it. Okay, so surplus variables do not come alone, they come with artificial variables. Is that okay? So as we have proceeded before, we have to convert it into a standard form. Okay, now the changes in the standard form would be something like this. Now I'll write my objective function. I'm not changing maximization to minimization. I'm retaining it as it is, subject to. Now, the first constraint is less than or equal to type. So, oh, sorry, this was x1. 5x1 plus 2x2. Now I need to introduce a slack variable. So I'll add x3 here and equal to 20. Now, because x3 is slack, so it will have a 0 coefficient in the objective function, right? But my second constraint is more than or equal to type. So I introduce a surplus variable x4. I subtract it. Because it's surplus, so it will have a 0 x4 here. Okay, the coefficient will be the behavior of slack and surplus in the objective function is absolutely the same. But because I need initial basic variable also from the second constraint, so I will add one artificial variable. Okay, and I'm calling it as A1, right? And this now becomes equal to 3. Now, but then this A1 will not have a 0 coefficient here. Okay, what Charney said was, let's assign a coefficient of minus m to A1, where m is a very large number. Okay, so that means the contribution to this objective function, say supposing m is 1000, so it's going to be minus 1008. So m is arbitrarily a very large number, as large as you can think of. So that's why we are not, because see, it depends upon the values here also. So like, for example, if I have single digit numbers, then 100 is also large compared to that. Okay, but if I have, say, values in, say, 5 digits here, then I have to choose my m accordingly. So it is left arbitrarily large. Okay, now this becomes the coefficient in the objective function, but the coefficient in the constraint is still 1 here. Okay, now if I just look at my third constraint, it's a less than or equal to type, so it becomes x2 now plus. Now another slack variable is required here, so I've already added till x4, so it will be x5 equal to 5, and because it was a slack variable, so the coefficient here becomes 0. So this becomes your standard form. And of course, as we have non-negativity restrictions for decision, slack, and surplus, we also have it for artificial. So we have x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and a1 more than or equal to 0. Now, a1 cannot be negative, because if a1 is negative, then this term will become positive. Okay, so this becomes our sort of standard form now. Okay, so now when you start with the initial table, you are going to have, let's make the initial table. Are you girls making it with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll have x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and then a1 also. Okay, now we need CJs here. What was the coefficient? Yeah, 5, 1, x3, x4, x5. They have coefficient 0, and a1 has coefficient minus n, right? Okay, now let's make the entries here. I'll have my basic variables here. So it's going to be 20, 3, 5. x1 is going to be 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, right here only, okay? 5, 1, 0. Then x2 is going to be 2, 2, 0, 1. Am I right? x3 is going to be 1, 0, 0. x4 is 0, minus 1, 0. x5 is 0, 0, 1. And a1 is 0, 1, 0. Is this okay? Now we have to choose our basic variables. Okay, and basic variables are defined by the identity columns here. Okay, now which variable corresponds to 100? x3. So that means x3 is your first basic variable. Okay, which corresponds to 010? That is a1. Okay, so a1 comes here. And which corresponds to 001? x5. That's why I insisted in the beginning, order is important. Okay. So now we have to write the coefficients from the objective function of these basic variables. So for x3, it's 0. For a1, it's minus m. And for a5, it's 0. Right? Now see. We begin. I'm sorry. Now we need z, we need zj, and we need zj minus cj. Now, how is z computed? By multiplying cb's with b and adding them all, right? So it's going to be 0 into 20 minus m into 3, 0 into 20 plus minus m into 3 plus 0 into 5. So, which makes it minus 3m. See, mind you, it won't start with 0 now. Okay. So imagine m is a very large number. And how much is your z? Minus of that. Okay. So that means it's going to be very, very small, definitely. Right. So now come to, say, ZJs, right? How are ZJs computed? CBs into the corresponding columns for X, right? So for X1 or for Z1, it's going to be 0 into 5 plus minus m into 1 plus 0 into 0. So it makes it minus m, right? Similarly, what about the second? X2, it's going to be 0, 0, 0, right? X3, again 0, X4. Now look at X4. It's going to be 0 into 0 plus minus m into minus 1, which makes it plus m, right? So the value here is plus m. What about X5? 0. And what about A1? Minus m. Is this okay? Now
Yes, ma'am.
compute your Zj minus Cjs. So it's going to be, for x1, it's going to be minus m minus 5, right? Then it's 0 minus 1, 0 minus 0, m minus 0, 0 minus 0, and minus m plus m, which makes it 0. Fine. Now we have to decide upon the entering variable. Right? Entering variable is defined by the most negative. Right? Now see, if you look at this term, minus m minus 5, right? So m is a very large number. M is 100. Take m as 100. So what does it become? Minus 100 minus 5, that makes it minus 105. Right? This is minus 1. So which one is most negative? Definitely minus m minus 5. Right? So we conclude that x1 enters the basis. Right? Now, for the variable to leave the basis, we have to compute the ratio and choose the minimum. Now, ratio for x1. इसी column का करेंगे ना? Because x1 has to enter. Now, in this, I observe that one entry is 0. So this will not be considered. So that means x5 is not going to leave the basis. Definitely. So it's a choice between x3 and a1, right? So this ratio is 20 upon 5, which is 4. This ratio is 3 upon 1, which is 3. So which one is smaller? 3. So which one leaves? A1 leaves, right? So see, you see, the choice of A1, I mean, most of the times you will observe that artificial variables are the first ones to leave the basis. Okay. And once they leave the basis, they cannot re-enter. See, if you are trying problems, I don't know because I have not tried it myself, those problems that I gave you, you can come across situations where, you know, at one iteration, one of the variable leaves the basis, but after 2-3 iterations, it again enters. Okay? So that is not a problem. That can happen with decision variables, that can happen with slack variables, that can happen with surplus variables also. But this will never happen with artificial variables. So once an artificial variable has left the basis, its job is over. See, the job of artificial variable was only to be a part of the initial basic feasible solution, right? Once it has done its job, it has completed its job, it can very well leave the basis and can never re-enter. We have no problems with that. So when we are doing with, when we are solving a linear programming problem with the help of either Charney's Big M method or the other method that we would be discussing later on, there are two methods for such things. We can do away with the column of A1. Okay, so that means in our next table, we need not consider this column at all because we know that this will never enter. Okay, so it goes away forever once it leaves the basis. Okay, so when we are making our new table, the second table or the first iteration that we are going to do, it's like now this 1 is your pivot element, so it's already 1, so we need not change the second row. This element is already 0, that means we need not change the third row at all. We just need to make transformations in the first row where we have to make this 5 0. Okay, so the second table when we'll have just writing the values here first. So first thing that I'll do is I'll just incorporate x1, x2, x3, x4 and x5. I will not write a1 now. Okay, so this is, and the corresponding CJs would be 5, 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and now my basic variables are going to be, if I see here, it's going to be x3. Instead of a1 now, x1 has entered and x5. These are going to be my basic variables. Okay. Now, since my second row is not going to change, so it's going to be 3, 1, 0, 0, minus 1, 0. And third row is also not going to change, so it's going to be 5, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. Right? Now, it is this 5 that I have to make 0. So the transformation that we are going to do is we are going to change our R1 to R1 minus 5 times new R2, right? So it's going to be 20 minus 15, that makes it 5. Then 5 minus 5, 0. Then 2. Then 1. Now it's going to be 0 plus 5. Is that 5? And 0. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, let's write the CBs also. X3 is 0, X1 is 5, and X5 is 0. Okay. So, when you, now you see, when you compute your Z, it's now 0 into 5 plus 5 into 3 plus 0 into 5. So it has moved over to 15. See, imagine from minus 300, it has moved to 15. Okay, so it has increased, right? So let's see, and not just increased, it has become positive also. So let's see now, Zj and Zj minus Cjs. Now your Zjs are going to be 0 into 0 plus 5 into 1, so that means 5, then 0, then 0, then minus 5, and 0. Please check for calculation errors and point out right away. 0, minus 1, 0, minus 5, 0. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the most negative Zj minus
Yes,
Cj,
ma'am.
minus 5, right? So, x4 enters the basis, right? Now, but then if x4 enters, I observe that in this column, one value is already negative and one value is 0. So that means we don't have to consider the ratio for these two elements. So that means x1 and x5 will not leave the basis. So the only option left with to leave the basis is for x3. And you can see the ratio here is 1. So that means x3 leaves the basis and x4 enters the basis. And your 5 becomes your key element. Okay? Now we come to the next table. So in my next table now, again I have x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and my corresponding CJs were 5, 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and when I write my now x3 has left and x4 has entered. So I'll have x4, x1, x5. These will be my basic variables now. Okay, and my coefficients are going to be 0, x1 goes 5, and x5 is also 0. Okay, now let's make transformations here, right? So I have to make this 5 1 now. So I'll divide R1 by 5, and we get 1, 0, 2 by 5, 1 by 5, 1, 0. Okay, now this element was to be made 0. It is already 0. So that means no change in R3. So I write my R3 as it is 5, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. Now I have to change R2. And what do I have to do in R2? Make this minus 1, 0. So basically what we have to do is now change R2 to R2 plus new R1, right? So it becomes 3 plus 1, 4, 1, 2 by 5, 1 by 5, 0 and 0. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now let's see. So now how much is your Z now? See, it has again improved. 0 into 1 plus 5 into 4 plus 0 into 5. So it has now become 20, right? And how much is your ZJs and ZJ minus CJs? See, let's see our ZJs. It's
मैम
Anji.
मैम x1 के कॉलम में फर्स्ट सेकंड एलिमेंट पे 0 है.
X1 के कॉलम में
सेकंड एलिमेंट
ये यहाँ पे are you talking?
जो अभी जस्ट टेबल बनाई जो.
हाँ, उसमें हमने R2 प्लस न्यू R1 किया ना.
यस मैम.
तो 1 प्लस 0.
ओके मैम. ओके.
ठीक है. Okay. Now this is 5. What about this? 0 plus 5 into 2 by 5 plus 0 into 1. So 5 into 2 by 5 makes it 2. Then this is 1. This is 0 and this is 0. Okay. Now what about ZJ minus CJs? So 5 minus 5, 0. 2 minus 1, 1. 1 minus 0, 1. 0 and 0. That's it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes मैम.
So what a happy state. We have reached optimality, right? Now, how to proceed, how to write the answers now? We just look for the nature of the solution now first. So we count the zeros in Zj minus Cjs. There are 3. We had 3 basic variables. So definitely it does not have a multiple solution, right? Why? Because If non-basic variable also has a 0 zj minus cj, then only the problem is going to have a multiple solution. So definitely it has a unique solution, number one. Secondly, how to write the solution, right? Now I have my basic variables as x1. Okay, let me write all the variables then. My variables were x1, x2, x3, x4 and x5, out of which x1, x2 were decision variables, x3 and x5 were slack variables, and x4 was a surplus variable, right? Now, if I look at my table, the optimal simplex table, I observe that x1, x4 and x5 are basic variables. So definitely x2 and x3 are non-basic. Okay. And non-basic have to have the value 0. Fine. Then basic variables, the value, the optimal solution would be read by the column B of the optimal table. Okay. So x1 will take on the value 4, x2 is already 0, x3 is 0, x4 is equal to 1, and x5 is equal to 5. Okay. So this becomes your optimal solution, and the optimal value of z that you have got is 20. That can be seen from the table itself. Your objective function was what? 5x1 plus x2. And for x1 and x2, what are the values that we have got? 4, 0. So when x2 is 0, x1 is 4, you are getting maximum z as 20. Okay? This is clear, right? So this is how we do with when we have more than or equal to type constraints, or even equality to type constraints. Let's see another problem. Now, how to handle, I'm doing this, I'm writing the second problem, how to handle not just the equality constraints, but also the case when one of the variable becomes unrestricted. See, so far we have tried problems in which all the variables were non-negative. But we have seen, like even while writing the standard form, we have seen that some variables can be unrestricted in sign. Okay. And to change unrestricted variables, what do? We simply write that unrestricted variable in terms of a difference of two non-negative variables. So one variable gets replaced by two variables. That's the only change we make while writing in the standard form. Okay. Like for example, supposing you have to solve maximize z equal to 3x1 plus 2x2 plus x3 subject to 2x1 plus 5x2 plus x3 equal to 12, then 3x1 plus 4x2 equal to 11, x2, x3 more than or equal to 0, and x1 is unrestricted in sign. We normally write it as UNS, which stands for unrestricted in sign. Okay, so that amounts to saying that my x1 can be positive or my x1 can be negative. So I don't know what it is. So that means for x1, I can extend it to the other side of the x's also. Okay, the problem that needs to be solved. So because unrestricted in sign, so what we do is, first of all, we write x1 as x1 dash minus x1 double dash. Okay, where both x1 dash and x1 double dash are more than or equal to 0. Okay. See, what will happen is that when we solve this problem, we don't know what x1 is, but it is unrestricted in sign. If the optimal value of the objective function is going to be obtained with a positive value of x1, you will observe that x1 double dash will be a non-basic variable. So if it becomes a non-basic variable, that means its value in the optimal solution will be 0, right? But supposing your z becomes optimal with a negative value of x1. So in that case, what will happen is that x1 dash will become non-basic and x1 double dash will become basic. So in that case, what will happen is that x1 dash will be 0. So what will x1 be then? 0 minus something, which will be negative. So never ever will it happen that both x1 dash and x1 double dash would be the basic variables. They can both be non-basic, but they can never be both basic. Okay, so if both of them are non-basic, that means x1 itself is non-basic. So x1 is 0 in that case. Okay, but then never ever can both of them be basic variables. Okay, so see, that's why you see these are certain strong points of the simplex algorithm that makes it till date the best to solve any linear programming problem. Okay, now let's come to handling of these equality constraints. Okay, now as I said, because it is equality, that means no slack, no surplus comes into picture, right? But because we need an initial basic feasible solution, so artificial comes into picture then. Okay, so one thing is slack comes alone, surplus never comes alone. Surplus has to be followed by an artificial, and artificial can come alone. Okay, when we have equality type constraints. Now in this case also, I mean, just a trick here that might turn out to be useful for you later on. We need an identity matrix in the simplex table corresponding to A that will serve as the initial basic feasible solution, right? One option, like when we are starting with, one option could be I add A1 here, I add A2 here, and then I begin with my problems, right? But if I look more closely at these constraints, I observe that I have my x3 already here, which is absent from the second constraint. Okay, see, it was a smaller problem, so I could immediately see. But if you have a bigger problem, or if you have more number of constraints, still you can, just at a glance, you can see whether any of the existing decision variables are actually contributing towards the identity matrix part or not. Okay, and if I look at my x3, the coefficients, the column corresponding to x3 is going to be 1, 0. Okay, so I already have my one basic variable. So x3 is already a pivot element from the first row, because x3 is present in the first row but absent in the second row. So even if I leave first row unchanged, it's not going to create a problem for me. So in fact, it's going to ease out my process, because I would be reducing on one number of iteration now. Because if I introduce A1 in the first constraint and A2 in the second constraint, I need 2 iterations to get rid of both of them, right? So if I am not introducing A1, that means I need only 1 iteration to get rid of A2, right? So that means I'm reducing my time of evaluations, right? So what I'll do is I will leave the first row unchanged as far as the addition of any artificial variable is concerned, but I will add an artificial variable in the second row. Okay, but then the changes also have to be made corresponding to the variable x1. Why? Because it was unrestricted in sign, right? So now when you write the standard form of this problem, your problem, of course, the number of variables will now increase, right? So my problem will now become to maximize z, which is the first coefficient, the first entry was 3x1. Okay, so now it becomes 3 into x1 dash minus x1 double dash, which I write as 3x1 dash minus 3x1 double dash. Okay, now what was the second entry? Plus 2x2 plus x3. They remain unchanged. Subject to, now see, again the first constraint had 2x1, so it will become 2x1 dash minus 2x1 double dash plus, what was that, 5x2 then plus x3. Now I'm not adding any artificial variable in the first constraint, so that remains as it is. So that is why no more required in the objective function as well. No change required due to the first constraint, right? Come to the second constraint now. Now it was 3x1. So it will now become 3x1 dash minus 3x1 double dash, right? Plus, what was that? 4x2. 4x2. Now I need to introduce an artificial variable. So I have a1 here equal to 11. And because I have introduced a1, so, and it's an artificial variable, we are still following the big M method. So it becomes minus ma1. You see, that's why we call it as the big M method, because we are introducing a big M, as big as you can think of. Okay. But now all my variables, be it x1 dash, x1 double dash, x2, x3, a1, they are all non-negative. Okay. So now this is my standard form. Right. Now we begin with the initial simplex table, the second step. The first step is to write it in the standard form. The second step is to begin with your initial simplex table. Okay. Now my variables are going to be x1 dash, x1 double dash, x2, x3, a1, right? And their corresponding coefficients in the objective function are 3, minus 3, 2, 1, minus m, right? Now, let's fill in the entries now. Your B's are 12, 11. Am I right? Yeah. Now see, x1 dash, 2, 3, then minus 2, minus 3. See, you can see from here itself, second column is a linear is a multiple of the first column. X1 double dash is nothing but minus of x1 dash. So definitely they are linearly dependent. They cannot be linearly independent. Okay. X2 is 5, 4. Now x3 is 1, 0 and a1 is 0, 1. Okay. So now my job is done. So I have my basic variables as x3 and a1, right? The coefficient of x3 is 1 and coefficient of a1 is minus n, right? And your z is now, see, it's going to be 1 into 12 plus minus m into 11. So it's going to be 12 minus 11m. Okay, again, m is very large. So it's like 12 minus 1100, right? So again, it's negative. Doesn't matter. Let's see. I have to now compute my zj's and zj minus cj's. So your zj's are going to be 2 minus 3m. This is going to be minus 2 plus 3m. This is going to be 5 minus 4m. This is going to be 1 and this is going to be minus m. Is that okay? Now zj minus cj. 2 minus 3m minus 3. So that makes it minus 3m minus 1. Minus 2 plus 3m plus 3. That makes it 3m plus 1. Then this makes it 4 minus 4m. This makes it 0 and 0. Now see, which one is most negative? Put m100. Which one is most negative? This is definitely positive. हाँ जी, कौन सा एंटर करेगा?
Ma'am, x2.
x2.
Everybody agrees on it? Hmm? Unanimously or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
मैम
हाँ जी.
मैम वो ZJ माइनस CJ जो आपने 4 माइनस 4M लिख रखा है वो 3 माइनस 4M होना चाहिए ना?
Yes, ma'am. It should be 3
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah. It is 2.
हाँ.
Yes,
Acha,
ma'am.
I read this one of A1. Yeah, yeah. It should be 3 minus 3M. Three minus 4M, है ना?
Yes, ma'am.
Now which one will enter? It said put M 100. Any value, put M 100, 1000, जितना मर्जी डाल दो.
X1.
मैम x2 ही करेगा.
X2.
Still
X1
X2.
dash. X1 dash. Maybe.
X1 dash.
Put M 100 and compute both these values. Which one is most negative?
मैम X
Ma'am, x2.
X2. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So X2 enters, right? So I have this. Now I have to decide upon the variable which will leave the basis, right? So the ratio here is going to be 12 by 5 and here it's going to be 11 by 4. So which one is smaller?
Ma'am, A1.
A1. So A1 leaves the basis and your 4 becomes your pivot element. Okay, now once A1 has left the basis, we can do away with this column. We don't need it. Okay, so can you now proceed on? कर लोगे इसको पूरा?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So now your basic variables will be x3, x2. In the next table, don't consider the column for A1 and just proceed on as we have done earlier. Okay. Now why I'm stopping it because now it's time. Yesterday also I exceeded my class. I don't want to do it today. So I'm winding up for today. You complete this problem and we'll continue with it in the next class.